Namaskar. I am Aditi Bhagwat, a Kathak and Lavani Exponent. In my career as a professional dancer, spanning for more than 2 decades, I understood the universal language of Kathak dance through my collaborations with various forms of dance and music like jazz, world music, flamenco, Lavani. Kathak lends itself beautifully, easily, and gracefully to a lot of collaborative efforts simply because of its sporadic nature and its spontaneity in rhythm, use of space, and the freedom of movement it offers to every dancer to explore space around him or her, and the rhythmic aspect of Kathak is as spontaneous and sporadic. What brought me closest to one dance form that I could totally explore with my perception of Kathak or through my eyes of Kathak is Lavani. Born and brought up in this state of Maharashtra as a Marathi mulgi, Lavani was always dear and near to me. But Kathak truly gave me the understanding of this art form. When I started performing Lavani as a professional dancer, I saw that there were many similarities and dissimilarities, and several dissimilarities yet things that overlapped the two dance forms. History knows that during the time of the Peshwas and the Mughals in Maharashtra, Lavani was heavily influenced by Kathak dance. A lot of dance movements like particularly these in Kathak or these type of hand gestures, even these kind of movements were seen being done in Lavani, and it can be easily said that this is probably because of the influence of Kathak dance. Certain type of rendition of music, even like a thumri or a baithakichi Lavani, have a massive overlap, and the traditions seem to be borrowed from one another or heavily inspired from one another. Moving on to the more technical aspects that I saw while exploring Lavani as a Lavani dancer and also as a collaborator with Kathak in my Kathak Lavani collaboration was the use of rhythm by the dancer to reciprocate the same to the dholki player. Now this was exactly like what a Kathak dancer does with a tabla artist. The relationship between the dancer and the percussionist had the same elements, jugalbandi, then trade-offs, and also very often these rhythmic structures were emoted with the use of the feet and the body language, pretty much like a Kathak dancer would do with the tabla. But then Lavani offers one huge exception also. Sometimes these rhythmic structures are expressed merely with the help of a simple neck movement or the eyes or just a standing gesture. For instance, if the laggi or the rhythmic pattern as we call it, the groove is dhati dhina, dhati dhina, dhin, it's not necessary that the dancer uses her feet to emote this. Sometimes the dancer could merely strike a pose, dhati dhina, dhin, dhati dhina, dhin, dhati dhina, dhin, dhati dhina, dhin, ta. Something like this. So the Lavani dancer is free to explore a particular rhythmic structure through her body, through just her facial expressions. And elements of these are seen in Kathak when we perform the nikas or the tat, and we simply establish the theka with the help of our wrist movement or just the eyes, the gaze, and movement of the body. One another thing that was a striking similarity between the two forms was the experience I had when I saw these dancers, saw some very traditional Lavani dancers performing Abhinay. The element of Gatabhav in Kathak dance often revolves around storytelling or merely Krishna holding the flute and the various stances that Krishna would use while playing the flute, the chal, then the act of throwing the flute, flinging it in the air and catching it again. Now something like this is very characteristic even in Lavani. The concept is called Ghurauni. To approach that particular song or storytelling by establishing a scenario, pretty much like a Kathak dancer would do while performing, say, a Hori or a Panghat Radha Krishna piece. This was in 2002 or 3 roughly, when I was at the Nasik Lavani Mahotsav and I saw the legendary late Yamunabai Vaikar perform with a tabla on her head in order to portray the maiden Radha carrying a pot of water on her head while going to the river Yamuna. What was striking here was that she was seated on the stage, singing, delivering the Lavani pretty much like a Thumri singer would. Baithakichi Lavani, and then at a certain point she picked up the tabla and put it on her head, and then she started doing these gestures and movements just like a Kathak dancer would emote the same idea. Another very established dancer, Maya Khutegaonkar. I saw her performing a song which was about a naughty little relationship, give and take between the dancer and her lover while they are planning to fly the kite. She approached the song first by establishing a scenario where she is making the kite with a paper. Then with her gestures she showed how she cut the kite in the perfect shape and tied it to a thread, and off the kite went into the air. Now this was very, very close to what I have experienced in Kathak whenever you want to establish a scenario or story, because storytelling is at the core of both these dance forms. With the literature, the poetry that Lavani has to offer, there's a lot of storytelling, and storytelling pretty much is approached in a similar fashion as Kathak. Now you cannot say that these two forms influenced each other while making this happen, or Lavani borrowed this idea from Kathak or vice versa. I think this is pretty much how any form of Indian dancing, Indian classical or folk dancing has developed, and especially Lavani with elements of storytelling. This is what Lavani was for me, Lavani is for me through my perception of Kathak dance. I hope at some point of time you get to watch a lovely, scintillating Lavani performance, and if you are a Kathak dancer, you can notice these finer little details in rhythm, in body stances, in gestures, pretty much like how you would be inspired to use in Kathak.